Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order, The Ruin, as the United Kingdom. Now, in the last video, well, we went ahead and elected ourselves a new Prime Minister, Mr. Gerald Wallop. God, King, Country. Those are the words that Gerald Wallop, the 9th Earl of Portsmouth, has sworn by, and those are the words that Britain had forgotten. The church had been torn down from the position of protecting the soul of English stock. The king had been betrayed by the people he led to glory. The country that nourished them all had been despoiled and destroyed by the creeping grasp of industrialization and finance. Yet Wallop stands to reverse this doom. The traitors might claim that England was destroyed as sea lions swept across the rolling hills. They are wrong. Sea Lion saw England's rebirth. As the British People's Party slowly consolidated under Lord Tavistock, Wallop joined his old allies from the English Mystery and RA, placing him as one of the key leaders of the old guard of the party. After only rising higher during the brief zenith of power under Chesterton, Wallop was one of the few who retained their post in the aftermath of 1956. As leader of the re-empowered House of Lords, Wallop held a high position in the ministry, and for 8 years England lay at peace under Domville's aging eye. And when the fires of another uprising were last put out, once more it seemed that the old guard stood triumphant, with Lord Portsmouth as their new leader. Britain now lies at the mercy of this man, a staunch believer in social credit economics, an obsessive ruralist who dreams of a near-feudal society without a care for popular approval. Whether or not he pursues his own impulses or follows the legacy of his party, Britain's fate rests in the hands of a new, terrifying master. Are we gonna go with our own impulses? You bet your fucking ass we are. That's gonna be the funny path. And what can I say? I want to do the funny. Well, we have vacant positions as of now for heads of government, but we do have one filled. Kim Philby. When history looks upon the failures of Domville ministry, his greatest criticism will be found in his misplaced trust in Maxwell Knight, this traitor that almost brought our government and Britain itself to ruin, laying waste to decades of work by the BPP. We know this cannot happen again, and thus Britain has turned to a loyal, trusted man to rebuild her internal security. Kim Philby. Kim, like his father, has always held loyal to the fascist cause in Britain, fighting for fascism even before World War II, in the desperate battle against Bolshevism in Spain. Unlike so many of his fellows, he refused Knight's call to revolution, staying loyal and aiding us to crush their doomed rebellion. With his loyalty to the old order and connections to the old guard, Wallop has seen fit to place Philby as head of MI5. He, like all men of the cabinet, is a man devoted to restore Britain to its proper glory, no matter the cost. And I'm proud of myself for managing to not giggle reading that. Yeah, how's our economy doing? Not too hot. Still trying to knock down inflation. It's not really working, is it? Well, no matter. Here we go. Oh, Jesus, our inflation is going to get worse. Oh, hell. Well, let's start at the top, and then we'll get down to the bottom. A government true to His Majesty. For the second time since 1956. That's not the same focus icon. Hold on. Wait a second. For the second time since 1956, puppets emboldened by their shadowy masters in America sought to drown out our fair island in bullets, bombs, and flame. Yet despite their vilest efforts, we true men of character and vision stand triumphant once more. Britannia's loyal sons remain vigilant in her defense, ready to continue the same noble agenda we have pursued for so many years. To that end, Gerard Wallop, the 9th Earl of Portsmouth, and Britannia's most loyal son, shall assume his mantle as our leader with Majesty's blessing, guided by his strong hand and bolstered by our indomitable faith. Britain shall retake her glorious place of pride in the Pact as a beacon for all the world to marvel at. Well, doing our best to boost our GDP and manage our deficit. Inflation is going down, which is good. Dear Lord Portsmouth, I would first like to thank you for your efforts in maintaining order during our second national crisis. Without your timely intervention, I shudder to think about what further damage could result from Fontaine and Butler's quarreling. I'm sure that England is in good hands with such experienced and dignified men leading it. You need not fret, Lord Portsmouth, for I have confidence in your ability to lead England. I recall our time in the Domville administration and your enthusiasm for agricultural matters. Whomever you select for your cabinet, knowing the company you keep, shall too perform their task with diligence and determination. However, if I may respectfully offer some advice, I would kindly ask you to take care with your direction of the Foreign Office. As a former distinguished Foreign Secretary myself, I can attest to the importance of cultivating good relations with Germany. I spent many nights in the homes of important dignitaries, captains of industry, and garrison commanders, building relationship and favors necessary to maintain their favor. Never forget that we live in a new age, one dominated by the continent, and Britain's role is a tower of security, sanctity, and respectability. I am sure you will consider these words greatly in the years to come. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you would like an audience for your concerns. My door is always open to you. Respectfully yours, Ronald Nall Kane, 2nd Baron Brockett. Its receiver smiles fades with each paragraph, until there's only a slight frown. Most British shit ever to just slightly frown with that. Well, I'm just looking at all this real quick. Okay, yeah. Anyway, thus on to traders next. It seems not all fascists are created equally. Fontaine and his organized squads of louts and hooligans are a disgrace to the British People's Party and all it stands for. Their mere existence is a shameful reminder of our failures in the 50s, and even now they continue to drag us down to their base level. We will not allow them to spread their infection to the government policy any longer. It is time for these wayward souls to be punished for their impunity. All still answering to Fontaine will be consigned to the backbenches in perpetuum, until they see the error of their ways and return to our fold. Only then can we begin to move our country on from the failures of the past decades and into a glorious future. Well, there we go. We'll work on anti-tank, I guess. It doesn't matter too much from here. What we do research-wise will be okay. Oh, well, I guess we don't have any, oh god, our GDP growth is horrible now. Bloody hell. Well, we can get working on construction now, I guess. Our admin efficiency is going to go down, so we're going to need some more Let's get working on in all these places. Oh wait, offices, right? Greater London needs some. Just gonna build them all across here, really. There goes Jack. Within the halls of Westminster are little treasures reserved for the highest of the nation's servants, social bars and tea rooms, well-appointed staff, and staff for their comfort, Guests to these amenities were rarely permitted and strictly controlled. John Bean supposed that was why he was drinking a pint in the House of Lords bar on its terrace overlooking the river. The man next to him invited him here to cut a deal. He drank out of decorum, but he had no appetite. "John," said A.K. Chesterton, setting his pint down, "I wanted to ask you a favor." "I already know, Arthur." "The answer's no." "John, please. Lord Portsmouth will surround himself with the genteel. I want you in our corner, keeping him in touch with the common man. So I can be his court jester, so I can speak the truth to deaf ears." He shook his head. Anyone else might have earned a far more caustic tone, but Bean's respect for his mentor kept it at bay. "You don't think much of Andrew, but I'll never meet a man who understood what Britain needed better than..." "Careful. You're in their house. The arrested-on fools who surround your man. For the love of God, look around you. Fontaine's done. This morning alone, 3 MPs whose loyalties were once unshakable have supported us. Kingswood, Salford, Taunton. Bloody Taunton! They're all with Gerald now. Good for him." Bean sat down his half-finished pint. "But I'd rather fight for Britain than its lords." He rose, gave Chesterton a pitying look. "Thank you, Arthur. But the answer's no. Tell Wulp my loyalties aren't as flexible as Kingswood's." Chesterton's frustrations were mollified by the news of another defection. Well, now we have a purge long overdue. God, our GDP is not going to be good. And the admin stuff is going to be worse. When the Germans came to our isles those 20 years ago, they set upon creating the government that would be friendly to their interests. In doing so, they saw fit to invite pragmatic members to join in the government, fleeing from their old collapsing regime. This would prove to be their greatest mistake. Since then, the pragmatists have acted as rot on our government, crippling our attempts to bringing Britain to its rightful place as a fascist power. Now we have the opportunity to wipe the slate clean and correct the mistakes made in 1944. These figures have no place in our new order, in our hallowed party. The uprisings has shown that all sympathetic to democracy will inevitably scurry away at the first opportunity. Let them be chucked out like the rats they are, for the British People's Party is a party for British fascists, and no one else. Well, we don't have much else to do for our political power now, but... okay. The Earl of Portsmouth and Lord of Tavistock stood together amongst a handful of other lords, both with their hands hanging over the railing of the top floor as they watched over the commons. They seemed to be busy having a debate of some description, although the topic did not matter to the two. Indeed, their eyes were drawn to something else far more interesting. The seats that had laid vacant for decades, declared for the opposition, had recently been filled by none other than the former pragmatist faction of the party. Wallop had expelled them, and even with this large chunk of the party gone, the BPP still had a supermajority. Even with their attempt against the old guard, almost all of the pragmatists knew that, because of a nation's election laws, their seats may flip given time. The pair watching were very amused by the fact. "You know, Hastings, I've been hearing rumors about all those chaps down there, and let me tell you, there's never a rumor about something good." The two chuckled harder than they ever had in years. You see the one on the right, I heard. I heard his wife cheated on him for a Bolshevik in the resistance." Rab Butler was very involved in debate on the Commons floor. He was practically the leader of the pragmatist opposition, defending several of the pragmatist members when they were attacked, and adopted a fierce demeanor towards his former colleagues. Although more focused on the debate on the ground, he looked up occasionally, trying to detect what some of the noise was coming from above. He did not catch Wallop and Bedford just yet. However, after one more successful punchline from Wallop, He glared at both of them with a look that could kill. The two noticed Butler's stare and laughed even harder than any of the rumors circulating that the Prime Minister could twist. They both turned back at that moment, leaving to head back for a meeting in 10 Downing. Well, in memoriam. It is a simple, sad truth that even the greatest of men may be terribly flawed, and that their mistakes can cost them dearly. Like Lord Domville, a lout like Fontaine, and always like Butler, far too much influence. Like Chesterton, he remained far too complacent in the face of Judeo-Bolshevik terror. Worst of all, he bowed and scraped without complaint when the Germans demanded the right to ravage our beautiful green land. For all their fatal flaws, he was our friend, a valiant champion of British character, a titan standing in the face of treason, stabbed in the back by that vicious Snake Knight. His loyal service to Britannia must not be forgotten, and as a final gesture to well-earned respect, we shall arrange a state funeral to lay him to rest. Well, here to that. It was a rainy day, one fitting for the mood of the day, Walp supposed. Barry Domville was not a man for pomp and ceremony, yet he was a man that certainly deserved it, especially after having been taken from Britain so cruelly. However, he would not have wished it to be laid in state, but a state funeral was required nonetheless. It was packed with BPP members, all old friends and dedicated supporters of the old guard, wanting to see their old leader off one last time. Gerald Walp was never a man who cried often, but the speeches his compatriots had given in honor of their old friend had left his face streaked with tears. The unfairness of the situation ran true when Bedford, Chesterton, and Knowlkane reminded him of how cruel it was that they were now bereft of Domville. When the proceedings began to come to a close, he strolled up to the podium, eyes lingering on the casket as he did so. It was closed, given the nature of Domville's death. The Prime Minister cleared his throat and took a deep breath. Friends, party members, my fellows in arms, you all know that Barry Domville was a great man. He has served this country dutifully, and without complaint for years, taking the slings and arrows from those who would see our country reduced to rubble. He was all this and more. But above all else, he was my friend. Our friend. And he will be so very missed. May we meet again one day in heaven, Barry. And with that, 3 well-armed policemen began to wheel the coffin off stage and through the sparse crowd that had gathered. He would be taken to a train, which would bring him to his final resting place, a quiet little cemetery near his home. Rest easy, Admiral. Walp would never admit it openly, but his first thought upon seeing the new Chief Mouser skulking was whether he would kick up too much of a fuss if he stuffed the mangy rat catcher in a sack and threw her into the Thames. Perhaps it sounded harsh, but Walp had never particularly liked urban cats. Separated from a natural wilderness suitable for its development, raised among humans who cannot teach these cats what his true mothers might, these little creatures would wreak havoc on natural wildlife. Many smaller animals risked endangerment or extinction because the urbanites of Britain insist on keeping these pests as pets. Walt preferred the stalwart companionship of dogs to the arbitrary proclivities of a cat, but he admitted that it was a hard sell for 10 Downing. The staff who he had inherited were used to a feline presence, and the staff he brought with them had come to expect it. They all heard stories about the light Peter III brought into their lives and demanded that PETA bring them the same. Considering the secretaries he had caught cooing over the creature in lieu of proper work, PETA had succeeded. Late one night, when the demands of his new role forced Walp to stay at 10 Downing Street rather than his beloved Chequers, he kept his head down and the lights dimmed, riding as if under candlelight to replicate a more comfortable experience. His door was left slightly ajar as he was expecting Bedford to join him later that night, but the door creaked open with nobody there. Walp looked up, and like an unwelcome phantasm, up leaped from behind the desk the Chief Mouser. PETA mowed, stretched her limbs, and lay down on Walp's paperwork. His mental defenses broke under this overwhelming assault. With a liver-spotted hand, he reached out and scratched between PETA's ears. The cat closed its eyes, purred, and having found this act of fealty acceptable, leapt off the desk and back into the light of the hallway. Peter would be spared the sack and the river this day. See, he's wholesome. Even though he wants to murder the cat. But he didn't. He's not that bad, guys. Anyway, I'm going to go and leave it there. Thanks so much for watching, though, gang. If you like this video, like it. If not, feel free to dislike. If you have any comments or feedback, leave it in the comment section below. I read all the comments again, and I appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below. Leave any comments or feedback down in the comment section below. I read all of them I get, and I appreciate any and all feedback you might have for me. And, yeah. That's really about it, my friends. I thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.